Assalamualaikum and welcome back to my video presentation on problem-based learning. Teaching and learning are complex cognitive activities, whether accomplished in a teacher-centered or student-centered classroom. How a teacher teaches and students learn are intimately related to their beliefs about the nature of the teaching-learning process. The transformation from traditional teaching and learning to student-centered learning certainly requires the changing of teachers' and students' belief and understanding of their role. In this lesson, we are going to explore the topic changing role of learners and teachers in problem-based learning. This topic is very essential not only for us as a teacher but also for our students. Teaching, however good it is, could not be successful without the students learning. Both should have shared goals and mutual understanding of what to learn and how. PBL is an instructional method in which students learn through the problem solving context and reflecting on their experiences. Teachers must come to understand the meaning of students' ideas, not to correct but to guide them through the learning process from beginning to the end. In this learning environment, instructional agenda is co-constructed by teachers and students based on their mutual understanding of the learning goals and outcomes. If both teachers and students are new to PBL, then they should be able to learn new skills concerning their role and unlearn the previous skills that are irrelevant to the inquiry-based learning environment such as PBL. This shifting process is not as easy as it looks. It needs knowledge and understanding of what PBL is, and above all, to have the courage to leave behind the past beliefs about the sacred of teacher-centered and content-based learning. As a teacher in the teacher-centered and content-based learning environment, we must have developed a strong belief about our main role as a content provider to the students through the spoon-fed approach. But in the PBL environment, this is one of the main roles that we should leave behind. And as a student, many are getting familiar with the role of a passive learner, waiting for the knowledge to be poured into their mind through passive listening and reading. And this is one of the main roles that should be neglected by the students in the PBL environment. What are the other roles in the teacher-centered and content-based learning environment that teachers and students should leave them behind or at least forget for a while? Well, the idea of teacher as a facilitator and a student as an active learner in the PBL environment should be based on the main characteristic of PBL itself. Our discussion in the previous lesson pointed towards at least 15 main characteristics of PBL. These are among the most convenient lists we could use to identify the new role of teachers and students in the transformational period from the teacher-centered and content-based learning to PBL. 1. PBL as an authentic education. As a student, they should be able to envision their most treasured dreams, future goals and ambition. And from there on, they should put themselves in the shoe of a professional and learn like one. The student's role here is a professional and contextual learner. As a teacher, we should be able to identify the emerging real-world problems that are closely connected to the content and context as well as students' prior learning experience. And from there on, we will be able to design a proper authentic problem for students to embark on their learning. And this is the role of a problem designer or developer. In the conventional curriculum setting, this is the role of a curriculum designer and content developer. 2. Problem as a base for learning. Students should change their understanding of the problem from a stumbling block to the learning opportunity, from learning about the problem and hastily solve it to learning through the problem and reflecting on the problem-solving experience. The student's role here is an experiential learner and content developer. The same goes for teachers. They should take the problem as an opportunity to provide the most effective learning environment for students to learn. This is again the role of a problem designer or developer. 3. The self-directed feature. Students should be able to reclaim their long-lost learning rights from the teacher-centered environment. They have to develop a sense of urgency and responsibility on learning goals and direction, and accountability on the attainment of the learning outcomes. Their role here is an independent learner. On the other hand, teachers should step back from spoon-fed habits and step forward to facilitate students' learning. Their role here is a learning facilitator. 4. Experience-based learning. A student should not only look at the new experience to be gained in the learning process, but also carry and connect their previous experience with the new one. A student's role here is an experiential and reflective learner. Teachers, on the other hand, should be able to identify students' level of mastery and experience prior to the learning and motivate them to connect and challenge their previous understanding. Teachers' role here is as a learning motivator. 5. PBL is focusing on activity and the process of learning. Students should participate in the brainstorming and inquiry process, researching, reasoning, decision making, as well as reflecting. Their role here is an active, reactive, proactive, as well as pre-active learner. In this situation, the teacher should design and present an authentic problem scenario and facilitate the learning activities so that the student could be able to achieve their learning outcomes. The role of the teacher here is a problem designer, learning facilitator, and co-assessor or co-evaluator. 6. Interdisciplinary learning. Students should be able to change their role from a single disciplinary content-focused learner and knowledge consumer to the problem-focused learner, knowledge creator, and content developer. As a problem designer and learning facilitator and motivator, teachers should be able to design an authentic and complex real-world problem, represents interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary or even transdisciplinary, and then facilitate and motivate students' learning to explore beyond the traditional subject-related boundaries and method. 7. PBL as group-based learning. Students should be able to develop team learning skills as well as social and psychological interaction skills. Their role here is an interdependent learner, co-teacher, and peer evaluator or assessor. Teachers, on the other hand, should be able to facilitate group learning and understand the sociological and psychological learning behavior and motivate the learning to achieve group as well as individual learning outcomes. Teacher's role here is a learning facilitator and motivator. 8. Student-centered. The students should change their role as a learning passenger to a learning driver. They have to grab all learning opportunities relevant to their intended learning goals and outcomes. Their multiple roles here are as a learning designer, independent learner, interdependent learner, co-teacher, and peer evaluator or assessor. On the other hand, teachers should step behind the learning curtain and become a passenger. Their role here is a learning facilitator and motivator. 9. PBL is more inductive. Students should be able to develop an inquisitive and explorative mind, learn to think outside the box and beyond the physical reality, to always apply critical, creative, and higher order thinking skills on the problems. They are supposed to be a higher order thinking practitioner, problem-focused learner, knowledge creator, and content developer. As a problem designer and learning facilitator and motivator, teachers should be able to design ill-structured and complex real-world problems to challenge a student's learning, facilitate and motivate them to apply higher order thinking skills. 10. Teachers are facilitators. They should be able to transform from a sage at the stage to a learning facilitator, motivator, and advisor. Using the problem to trigger students' learning, they should let the students experience learning through without much interference. They should have a strong belief on students' ability to play their multiple role as a learning designer, independent learner, interdependent learner, co-teacher, self and peer evaluator or assessor. 11. Self-reflective. At this stage, students should be able to engage in metacognition process and the intellectual activities of thinking about thinking to explore their experience directed towards new understanding and appreciation. At this point, their multiple roles are as a reflective learners and self-assessor or evaluator. As a learning facilitator, motivator, and advisor, teachers should be able to guide through and role play as a mirror. 12. Collaborative and interdependent. This is again related to the team learning skills. Students should be able to develop collaborative and cooperative learning skills. Their multiple roles here are as an interdependent learner, co-teacher, and peer evaluator or assessor. Teachers, on the other hand, should be able to facilitate a collaborative and cooperative learning and let the students understand that the whole is greater than the sum. Teacher's role here is a learning facilitator, motivator, and advisor. 13. Builds on or challenges prior learning. A student's prior knowledge and understanding is the baseline on which the new learning experience is built. They should have the skills of unlearning and relearning. A student's multiple roles here are as an experiential, active, reactive, proactive, preactive, and reflective learner. Teachers should be able to identify students' level of mastery and experience prior to the learning and motivate them to connect and challenge their previous understanding. Teacher's role here is a learning motivator. 14. Context specific. Students should shift the role from a passive and content-based learner to a professional and contextual learner. As a teacher, we should be able to identify the real-world problems that represent the context-specific of the students' learning and design a proper authentic problem for our students to connect their learning to the problem context. This is the role of a problem designer or developer. In the conventional curriculum setting, this is the role of a curriculum designer and content developer. Finally, 15. PBL creates cognitive conflict. At this point, a student should be able to develop an inquisitive and explorative mind and always apply critical, creative, and higher order thinking skills on the problem. They are supposed to be a higher order thinking practitioner, problem-focused learner, knowledge creator, and content developer. As a problem designer and learning facilitator and motivator, teachers should be able to design ill-structured and complex real-world problems to challenge and create the cognitive conflict and then facilitate and motivate them to apply higher order thinking skills. Based on this discussion, we could identify several essential roles of students that they should be changing. 1. As a learning designer, content developer, and knowledge creator. 2. Active, reactive, proactive, and preactive learner. 3. Independent and interdependent learner. 4. Problem-focused and experiential learner. 5. Professional and contextual learner. 6. Reflective learner. 7. Co-teacher. 8. Higher order thinking practitioner. 9. Peer evaluator or assessor. And 10. Self-evaluator or assessor. As for teachers, there are at least 5 main roles they should be shifting to. 1. Problem designer. 2. Learning facilitator. 3. Learning motivator. 4. Learning advisor. And 5. Co-assessor and evaluator. These roles are certainly more challenging than their original role as a sage at the stage in the teacher-centered and content-based learning. This shift may look too much for highly passive students and teachers from the traditional schools of learning. It could be easier for those who had gone through some experience in other student-centered and inquiry-based learning approaches. I hope this brief discussion had enlightened us with some important points that we need to understand before exploring further into the specific PBL models and its application in the upcoming videos. Thank you very much for your time and kind attention to my presentation. And viewers who are new here, please subscribe to my channel so you will get more notification on my upcoming videos. And don't forget to like and share this video. And if you have something to share, please leave the comment below. Thank you. Have a great day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.